This is the IBJ podcast for the week of March 22nd, 2021. I'm Mason King. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. As we've discussed for the last year, restaurants and other eateries have been among the hardest hit businesses during the pandemic. So it's no surprise that downtown's City Market is struggling. A little more than a year ago, it had 32 vendors and essentially was full. It has since lost about a third of them, as several vendors went out of business or decided to relocate. Vendor rents make up one of the two main revenue streams for the not-for-profit that runs the market, so it's expected to lose $10,000 to $30,000 per month, at least until mid-year. We should note that the City of Indianapolis owns the historic property and also provides an annual subsidy of about $270,000, which is the market's other major revenue stream. But the market wouldn't necessarily snap back to full strength if everybody got vaccinated tomorrow. The market faces some existential threats, beginning with expectations that many downtown office workers won't return full-time when the pandemic lifts, potentially cutting into the market's old pool of regular patrons. A rash of crime in and near the market during the deepest days of the pandemic may have created the impression that it's unsafe. Two other major food halls are ramping up downtown as potential competition, one at Bottleworks, which is about a mile northeast, and the Artisan Marketplace at 16 Tech, which is on the far northwest side of downtown. There's a major construction project underway on Market Street, right in front of the City Market's main entrance. And at some point in the near future, the nearby county courts, sheriff's office, and many jobs related to law enforcement and criminal justice will be moving to the new Community Justice Center in the Twin Air neighborhood, siphoning another set of customers. That brings us to our first guest. Keisha Gray became the executive director of the City Market in November and has taken the lead in addressing all of these challenges. And she's received some early praise for bringing fresh thinking to the job, having come from a not-for-profit background that doesn't immediately scream food hall. We'll chat with her first about efforts to stabilize and strengthen the market while letting it evolve and find new strengths and make a stronger connection to downtown's growing residential population. And then we'll speak with Hayden Haddocks, who has opened 2 eateries in the market in the last 13 months. He quite literally is doubling down on his belief the market can get back to full strength. So, first up is our conversation with Keisha Gray. I am pleased to welcome to the podcast Keisha Gray, the executive director of the Indianapolis City Market. Keisha, thank you so much for taking time today.
Thank you for having me.
If you don't mind me saying so, you are a brave person. You jumped into this job in November of 2020 when we were in the second or the third wave of the pandemic, depending on where you lived, and in a widely known institution that definitely faced some significant challenges. What attracted you to the job?
Well, I think I want to touch on what I've said in a few other interviews that I've had thus far, is that I could tell there are the spirits of resilience and grit with the merchants who are here. They want to be here, they want to be successful, and it's not just from a financial point of view. A lot of them have even grown up here, literally. And so it's in their DNA, it's in their blood, and I just felt that it was important to help support people who really believe in what it is that they are doing and believe in the cause and being with other people who are in the same situation.
And the job that you came from most recently in Chicago, what were you doing?
I was an executive director of a small suburban public library district.
These two positions obviously don't sound like each other, but I bet that they did have more in common than I'd think.
Well, I think the biggest connector is that we want to have people be a part of the spaces. So in libraries, you definitely want to have programming. You definitely want it to be inviting. You want people to be able to envision themselves in the place and making use of it, whether it's finding a book or attending a program, or even just studying silently or just coming in the place for some kind of connection with people. And it's the same thing here at the City Market. People come here for that sense of belonging. They have their favorite merchants that they like to get food from, or other things like a haircut or some jewelry or even flowers. And it just becomes a part of their routine. So we can both be what's known as a third place. Besides work and home, that third place that you go to find community. And that's definitely the city market.
So at this moment in time, if we jump to the future or jump to the present, excuse me, a year after the pandemic started, what is it that you want the residents of Indianapolis to know about the city market? What is the most important message to get out there?
Well, for one, we never closed. I think that there are people who are under the impression that we had been closed at some time. And yes, there were a few merchants who had to close, especially in the early parts of the pandemic, but literally the city market never closed. So we want to make sure that people know that we are open and we are waiting to serve you with food. And as we are rolling out the vaccine and people are becoming more confident with being out in public again, we want to let them know that we will be ramping up events and things as well, and doing so in a safe manner.
Should anybody be concerned that the city market is in danger of closing?
I don't think so. Like, that's not really something that is being floated around. So I don't know why they would think that we are, but no, we are not.
So let's take a quick census of the food hall, which I think is what most people think of as the city market, though it's obviously
Yes.
a bigger plant. So at the end of 2019, there were 32 tenants. The space was essentially full. How many tenants are there today?
22.
And you recently added two, is that right?
Yes, we added Maxine's Chicken and Waffles, which relocated from East Street. So we are now its main location. And then we've added City Walk, which is a fast casual Asian restaurant that is owned by a current merchant who owns Proc Salads as well. And I just want to add that with the merchants and the footprint that we have, the coffee shop upstairs, Mile Square Coffee, did close. And with its closure, we are not backfilling that space.
Oh, okay.
So just want to make sure, right. Just want to make sure that, that's clear. We're not going to backfill that space because eventually we plan to have more events here and we want to make sure that we have adequate seating.
Oh, that's interesting. So you might stage events up on the mezzanine level.
Yes. So we've done that in the past. Generally, when people do hold events here, corporate events or even weddings and receptions, which we do have from time to time, we use the mezzanine level for the activities.
And as I recall, Tomlinson Tap, and is it the Poke, the seafood?
It's Poke Guru.
Poke Guru.
Yes.
Oh, I sound so uncultured.
And it's delicious.
Yeah, great place. I imagine Tomlinson Tap is going to stay up there. Would Poke move downstairs?
That's a possibility, something that we've thought about.
And so the 10 or so vendors that left, did they close? Did some of them just move to other locations?
So most famously, Circle City Sweets moved to 16 Tech, and they are up and running over there. And the Tamale Place, which closed in December, came to the natural end of its lease. So that was why, and they chose not to sign a new lease, which of course, you have that option, and they do have another location as well. And we did have some merchants who closed because they did not have enough business to sustain operations, which is not unusual for anyone in this economy. And I think we need to keep that in mind, is that we're not the only place who has been thusly affected by closures. Mm. And even when you look at some of the newer places like the Garage, Food Hall, and the AMP, they are not 100% occupied either. So whether it's because people haven't started a business or because businesses are closed, people are having trouble accessing the capital that they need in order to run the business. So we're all in the same sphere and area and working within that framework of how do we best support people in this particular economy as it is now.
And the loss of vendors is significant from a financial standpoint, because the way I understand it, the main sources of revenue for the market are the rents from the vendors and then the $270,000 subsidy from the city, which owns the property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so looking towards the future, as we begin our strategic planning process, we're going to take a more in-depth look at donor cultivation because we are a historic property and there are people who believe in causes of historic properties. And we want to make sure that we're providing an adequate vehicle for them to make that contribution to us.
Great. And I want to talk about, the strategic planning process and some of the solutions here in a second. I do want to take a quick census of, I don't know why I'm using that term suddenly. It's not like I've done that before. But talk quickly about the major challenges that the market faces right now. Obviously, the big one right now is the pandemic. And your typical population, your office workers, have been slow to come back downtown. And it potentially, depending on which forecast you listen to, there might not be as many of them coming back downtown when the pandemic does subside. Is there anything you can do about that?
Well, I don't know that I can personally make everyone come back to the office as much as I would love to. So, yes, our primary clientele has been the office workers, city county building across the street from us, come and sell for some of the bigger players. But what we've got to tap into right now are the residents in this up and coming neighborhood. And we have a marketing consultant that we're working with who's going to help us do exactly that. So, yes, I am personally inviting all of the office workers to continue making us a part of your commute. So you can still leave the house, you can still come here and grab your breakfast or lunch and then go back home and work. We're still here for it. So, yes, I invite you all back.
There's a major construction project on Market
Yes.
Street by the south entrance of the market. When is that supposed to finish?
Right now, I'm being told end of this year, top of next year.
There is a perception that the city market isn't safe. I think over the course of the pandemic, and people became aware that once the downtown workers left, the pretty rough crowd started hanging around the outside of the market. There was drug dealing and frequent fights. What do you say now to the people who think that the city market isn't a safe place to go?
Well, it is absolutely safe. And this is coming from someone born and raised on the south side of Chicago with all that connotes to anybody who knows anything about it. And I feel perfectly safe coming here to work every day. And we have security and we are working with the police department to ensure that it remains a safe place. And so, again, things that happened last summer are not unusual for what was happening in many locations across the country, with people understanding where they are in place and time and being a little bit fed up with some things that were happening with them, and certainly from a systemic perspective. So we were not unusual that there was a little bit of unrest here as well. And of course, we're not going to minimize those particular experiences that people did have while they were coming here. But since that time, it has been a place that is safe to visit. And again, we have security who monitors the building during all of our open hours. And we make it easily traversable. So you can access us from 3 other entrances, even beyond the south entrance that's closed now. And people do so every day.
You mentioned before a couple of other things that have happened over the course of the pandemic that were not related to the pandemic. 2 new food halls have opened or in various stages of opening. One is at the Bottleworks development, which is about a mile northeast. And then there's the Artisan Marketplace at 16 Tech, which is on the far northwest side of downtown. Are those close enough for you to consider them competitors for foot traffic? Do you think that's going to draw folks away from the city market?
Well, as our rebranding campaign is rolling out, we have a new tagline, and we are the original gathering place. And when you look at these 2 other locations, there's some similarities to what we're doing here. So I think that speaks to a formula that has been successful And with all of the research and development that was done in bringing those other two projects to fruition, they had to know that this city could sustain all three of us. So we are the original gathering place. People are going to come here and take part in the events that we have and visit the merchants that we have because they love them. And they will also try the other places because they are new. So there's room for all of us. And I will say that what I have been floating about as competition is for the staff, family, and friends of those two places to take us on in a cornhole contest. So let's leave the competition where it is. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. So
The Food Hall League.
that's right. That's right. That's right. City Market will take on the garage and the amp and cornhole, and we shall prevail. So that's where we're going to be competitors at. Let's
Okay.
just say that.
Well, are they potentially a bigger threat because they're competitors for vendors? When you talk about trying to refill your spaces, I mean, they're the shiny new thing in town. I
Sure.
assume that you need to somehow convince them City Market is worth a go.
Sure. And the shiny new things in town are also more expensive than we are. So, for downtown rents, I think we're pretty competitive. And I don't know how they onboard new merchants there, but people still love the city market. We have had continuous inquiry into people becoming merchants here. So there is no shortage of people who still want to be located here at the city market. And we are working, myself along with Mandy Wright Jarrett, who is my fabulous operations and facilities manager. Like without her, we could not do this. So, we're the new dream team. And yeah, so, together we're working to make this a place that is much friendlier, much more accessible to administration, and just all around supportive of what the merchants here are doing.
There's a fifth one that is more of kind of an existential threat. And since I know you're an English major, I won't try to explain that. Um, there's the eventual loss of the courts and some of the criminal justice functions that are at the city county building and in the surrounding block, which are going to move to the community justice center in the Twin Air neighborhood. And I think that the campus is going to be finished sometime in 2022. So you got a little bit of time to plan. How big of a problem do you see that?
Well, again, it's opportunity for us to reach out to different populations that we've never had to court before. So, to my understanding, most of our clientele would be the office workers because we are primarily breakfast and lunch. But again, we have an up and coming neighborhood here. So we have to turn to the residents to support what it is that we're doing within these walls. And I think if they know what we're doing, they will be extremely supportive. I mean, it is within walking distance. You can't ask for anything better than to have this kind of access within less than a 2-minute walk.
And yeah, you're referring to, I assume, to what has happened to the eastern side of downtown over the last 10 years, which has been completely transformed, really, with apartment units, thousands of apartment units. And there's a whole new feel over there. There are obviously many, many, many more people. How specifically do you try to reach out and touch them and bring them into the city market?
So that's something that we are ramping up because it has not been done before, to reach out to the residents primarily because we didn't have to. Again, we have the strength of the city market reputation to rely on, and that brings people here out of curiosity as well. And so, in ramping up our marketing and advertising efforts, we will be even going door to door in some cases and speaking with the community managers and saying, hey, did you know we're here? And did you know this is what we do here? So we will be having some grassroots efforts to get the word out, maybe doing some targeted mailings and things like that. But, definitely letting people know that we're here.
I used to live downtown, and it was great. Here's what I wanted when I was living downtown. a place where I could go on Sunday morning to pick up some stuff, and a place where I could pick up some food, pre-prepared food for dinner. Are those things that are available at the city market, or something that could be available at the city market?
We don't have regular current Saturday hours at the moment, but that is something that we are trying to also explore. So, expanding our weekend and evening offerings is definitely something that we have to put an eye on because we are hearing more people want these things. And again, during our strategic planning process, I think that that will rise to the top. So, we will figure out a way to make that a regular thing. At the moment, we're trying to figure out how to be open for Easter. We open for Valentine's Day. And with Maxine's being here and having that great experience in catering, we're hoping that people will come for that and then visit some of the other merchants who may choose to also be open on that day too.
Tell me more about the strategic process. How long a process is this, and when do you hope to start implementing some of this?
So we are just beginning thinking about what it is that we want to do for strategic planning. We have a team at SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives, that we've been working with, and they will also help us to begin our strategic planning process. But certainly, we will need a committee on our board to represent the board in this process, and we most definitely will need to have merchant representation as well. And then figuring out, the other stakeholders of the communities around us and who else may need to have an audible voice in what it is that we're doing here at the city market. And so that process a quick one can be 3 months. I don't think we'll complete it in 3 months, but certainly we're trying to do it as fast as we possibly can because we do need to make some decisions about what we do around here. And I do believe that the merchants are wanting a solid plan of where we're going to be led for future growth. And they deserve that, and I want to give that to them.
What is your number one priority, like right now? If I could see your whiteboard back there, what would be on top of the whiteboard?
Oh, that's a great question. The number one priority would be making sure that all of the merchants feel that their concerns are being heard and addressed.
What is the main concern that you're hearing?
Yeah, everyone is concerned with safety and security as they should be. They want to feel supported when they come here to work. And I think that we are making some great efforts and strides in keeping this a safe place to work and to visit, and figuring out then how to attract the crowds in. So I do think that part of that responsibility does lie within administration, which would be me, and what we do here from the nonprofit side to bring events here that attract people to come and visit the merchants inside and support their businesses.
So once the pandemic is under control and the folks who are going to return downtown, and the construction is completed, can the city market survive under the old model? I mean, as it was before the pandemic, or is it necessarily going to have to evolve into something different?
Everything has to evolve if we want to grow. The question is, what will we evolve into? Some of it might be a throwback to what has been done in the past. And being here since November, I don't know all of the iterations that it has been, but certainly we do have to have an eye on what is something new that we can do to bring people in. I think any entity always has to be evolving, because if you keep doing things the way that you've always done them, at a certain point, that's not sustainable anymore. So how far away from where we are right now do we have to go? I don't know, but I don't think it's far. I think that what we evolve into is layering on some things on top of what it is that we're doing right now, so that we have a fresher perspective on it, using the space in a different way. But I think that, again, you have to grow, you have to do something different. It's the sweet spot is figuring out at what point do you make that shift. And I think that we are poised to do some things differently now. So like, for instance, we had merchants who had never done the delivery services before. And with the pandemic, they learned how to do it, picked it right up, and that has helped to sustain them in ways that they didn't even know were possible. So they had to evolve in order to, even maintain what it is that they're doing now. And I think, again, that just speaks to them being resilient in this place. So we also have to do and be willing to do the same thing. How do we evolve it so that it's still a great place for them?
I assume everybody's looking forward to warmer weather.
Oh, absolutely. And the tap room, Tomlinson Tap Room, is reopened now. Currently Thursday and Friday, 12 to 9, Saturday, 11 to 6. So we are highly encouraging daytime drinking. I mean, it's a pandemic, right? Like the way that we've done business before is just gone out the window. So we even had a customer today who knew we were reopening, and he was there maybe about 12:10, 12:15 with his laptop and just ready to work. So, hey, we're here for it.
Oh my God, it's a sign of spring.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So yeah, we're looking forward to the weather changing and becoming nicer. It would be a great sight to behold, to see people sitting outside on the plazas and enjoying themselves with purchases from inside. So yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that.
Well, great. Well, let's check in maybe at the end of the year and see how things went.
Okay, sounds great.
Well, thank you so much for making time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, we are open, we are here ready to serve you, and we can't wait to see you.
We'll speak next with Hayden Haddocks, who has opened a fast salad spot called Proc Salads and a fast Chinese spot called City Walk in the market in the last 13 months. For our next guest, I'm pleased to welcome Hayden Haddocks, who has opened 2 eateries in the City Market in the last 13 months. Hayden, thank you for making time today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So the first eatery you opened was Proc Salads in February of last year. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm sure that you opened with a certain set of expectations, and then it just turned upside down in March.
We did. So we opened the Monday after the Super Bowl, and I'll never forget, it was Super Bowl Sunday. We actually turned one of our TV screens, turned on the game because, of course, when you're opening anything, you're always running a little bit behind. So we were working late into the hours. But that first week was absolutely amazing. We had some snow, and there were people walking through the snow to come get a cold salad from us. And we did way better in sales than we thought we would for that first week and for that first month even. So it was a great start.
How are your sales right now compared to those first few weeks?
We're at about 20%, 25% on some of the better days. But yeah, it's not anywhere near it used to be.
How have you been able to survive and stay open over the last year, with such a, so dramatic drop off in sales?
Ebbing and flowing. Yeah. To be honest with you, when we started, we had 3 employees. And then to get through, it was just me. So we, while we are profitable on the books, I'm not making any money from it. I'm getting through, and then, we're hoping that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. But what was probably our saving grace is the flexibility that we have, and it can be a one-man operation if it needs to be, or one-woman operation. And what I think has really gotten us through is the support of our regulars and our locals. It means the world to us, and seeing those smiling faces. I mean, we had one guy who just took a job in Cincinnati, and seeing him leave, it was just heart-wrenching, because you almost build friendships with these people that you see constantly. And when they love your product and they love what you're going after, that made the world a difference for us.
So, I mean, there must have been at some point when you had to ask yourself, why don't I just cut my losses and close?
We did actually. I lost my business partner right towards, I think about 2 months in. We were kind of looking at sales, and the last day we did $45 in sales, and he said, we got to shut it down. And then when we were talking about reopening, his heart, he just wasn't in it anymore. And so we've had some trials and tribulations, but I still think this is going to come back, and I know that City Market will come back, and we're just staying positive and pushing through.
And so within just the last few weeks, you've opened another spot in the City Market. I mean, you literally are doubling down. What is the new spot?
Correct. So the new spot is City Walk, and it's fast casual Chinese food. And we're all about speed, just like Proc Salads. So give me about 60 seconds of your lunch break, and I'll get you a hot, tasty, fresh meal. And we look forward to seeing you back again soon. Okay. And with that as well, we also opened another Proc at Circle Center Mall, and we're looking at opening a City Walk at Circle Center Mall as well.
Why are you confident in the future of the City Market? When your family says, "What are you doing?" What do you tell them?
As my mother says, are you still doing that salad experiment in Indianapolis? And yes, Mom, it's not an experiment. This is happening. City Market, to me, honestly, is like an old sweater, right? It's comfy. You put it on. It's familiar. It gets the job done. And right now, City Market, I think, serves as a key lunch spot for the downtown area. And as things get better and Tomlinson Tap Room opens back up, I think it's a great place to meet after work and grab a beer, a glass of wine. And as the summer months open, the plazas are wonderful with bocce ball. It's a great little place to hang out. There's so much around it. I truly think that City Market is a part of Indianapolis. And to think that that's going to go away, I think is a bit foolish. But there are going to be hard times. And I think right before we got there, all you had to be at City Market was you just had to be there and you were in the right place at the right time and you were going to make money. And things got a little challenging. And then all of a sudden it was, well, if I'm going to go spend my money with everything being tight, I want to spend it somewhere that I'm going to get what I really want, not necessarily what just happens to be closest to me. So I think some people are having some challenges and unfortunately have had to leave City Market, but I do believe it will come back. And I think its proximity and just its history and culture it's an amazing part of the city.
Is there anything in particular that you would like to see change there?
Yeah, I would like to see some more of events that are taking place on the weekends and kind of capitalize on some of the things that are happening. For example, having a 5K possibly that starts at City Market or having a dog parade around downtown or just something fun on the weekends to kind of remind some of the folks, hey, City Market's still here. You look at all that construction. If you've never been before and you walk by, you'd say, I don't know what that is. It's not even open. But there's so many new apartments that are opening up. I think we have an opportunity to kind of work with those new residential areas and say, hey, why don't we have, the Artistry Day at City Market, or why don't we have the Cityway Day at City Market? So different ways that we can kind of team up with our local downtown community to help us show our support and also let them show some support for us.
So as you mentioned, in December, you opened a Prox in Circle Center Mall, and you're planning to open a third location at the Artisan Marketplace at 16 Tech. Is that right?
That's correct.
What was attractive to you about the marketplace at 16 Tech?
When I first walked in, I met a gentleman named Craig Baker, and he's working with everybody and a very talented chef. And I'd never met him before. And we kind of walked around and poked around, and his enthusiasm was addictive. I mean, as soon as he started talking about what was going to happen, I was like, okay, this is cool. This looks nice. And then every week that I go back in there and every day I go in there, something's changed. And I'm like, wow, this is really going to be something special. And my father is kind of my right-hand man with everything. And he came in and we actually had dinner the night before we went to 16 Tech. We had it at Coke bottling plant. And he said, this is really cool. This is really neat. And I said, just hold on. And then the next day we went to 16 Tech and he saw what that was going to be. And I'm really excited about the opportunity that we're going to have there.
Do you necessarily see that as a competitor of the City Market? I mean, you've got the same kind of place opening in both places.
Yeah, so it is a competitor, and I'm not a car guy, so maybe this isn't the best reference, but I think there's brand new Ferraris out there, and then there's classic cars as well, and they each serve their own purpose. And I truly think that City Market is that lunchtime crowd. It's more of that downtown. We're right here. We're going to walk right over to you. Whereas 16 Tech, I think somebody might, hey, let's go for a drive and go check out something different. And it's almost like the mall food court mentality where let's go somewhere where there's a lot of options. That way everybody gets what they'd like. What I think is really neat about 16 Tech is that's happening at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So there, you've got an opportunity to kind of change what you're doing and capture some different guests at different times of the day that you might not at a City Market.
Did you take a look at the food hall at Bottleworks?
I did. It's very beautiful. It's very impressive. But I think that it's got its own unique crowd. And like anything, it's the new shiny penny. So obviously everybody's going to go check it out. I've been there 3 times. But I think it's got its own quirks and uniquenesses that make it different from 16 Tech. So it's all kind of depending on what you wanted to go experience and what you wanted to do.
Why did you decide you didn't want to be in the Bottleworks?
At that time, honestly, we were just moving a little too fast for just me. And I still think that there could potentially be an opportunity to get in there. But right now we're kind of focused on where we have our feet in the ground. And once we get the 16 Tech open, then we'll start looking for the next one.
Well, great. Well, best of luck to you. When I'm finally let out of my house, I will come down and see what you guys are up to.
Perfect. We'd love to have you.
My thanks again to Keisha Gray and Hayden Haddocks. You can learn more about the City Market struggles in Susan Orr's story that appears on the front page of the latest issue of IBJ. And there are a few other strong stories I want to draw to your attention. IBJ's Greg Andrews reveals that you can trace the NCAA's decision to host all of March Madness in the Indianapolis area this year to a day on a Washington, D.C. golf course in 1995 when NCAA President Cedric Dempsey was playing golf with Indianapolis civic leader Jim Morris. Dempsey was riding in the cart with Morris when he inquired whether Indianapolis might be interested if the NCAA wanted to move its headquarters from the Kansas City area. Greg has all the details from the 2-year courtship that ensued, resulting in the NCAA calling Indianapolis home. Also in this week's issue, John Russell reports that Indiana has become one of the battlegrounds between hospitals and health insurers over the cost of specialty drugs to treat patients with cancer, vision loss, low white blood cell counts, and other serious diseases. Insurers say they can get the drugs for much lower prices from outside pharmacies, but hospitals and physicians are resisting, saying preparing the drugs on site is safer for patients. And Kurt Christian dives into the 2 pilot programs for autonomous vehicles planned for Indianapolis and Fishers this year. Again, you can read these stories in the latest print edition of IBJ or online, of course, at ibj.com. I will say it is quite a bit easier to access all of the latest news and all of IBJ's data on Central Indiana's business, community, and economy if you're a subscriber. It works out to about $2 per week for actionable information you're not going to find anywhere else. Just go to ibj.com and click the subscribe button. Thanks again for making time this week for the IBJ podcast, which is edited by Leslie Weidenbetter. I'm Mason King. Hang in there, everybody. We'll be back again next week.